Hello everyone and welcome back to Flash Forward, the show where I talk about every single Flash comic. This week we are continuing our look at New 52 Flash with Volume 3, Guerrilla Warfare. If you haven't seen the last video, the one before that, I highly recommend going back and watching those because this volume just continues the story that has been running throughout those last two videos. And without further ado, let's just get straight into this. The story begins 10 years ago in the suburbs of Central City. Daryl Fry arrives at the Allen household where we see a young Barry Allen. Daryl is covered in band-aids and stuff, and Barry's like, "Whoa, what happened?" And Daryl's like, "It's all good, I'm not gonna tell you what happened, just know that it was a rough day today." Barry asks Daryl how he does what he does every day, and Daryl says that he's lost many relationships to his job, but he just has to look at the big picture, and that is the fact that all four walls of this city are their home, and that he will do whatever he can to protect his city. And Barry has gone by these words since. So this is interesting because we're establishing that Daryl and Barry have known each other for years, which is something that had never been established in previous Flash comics. And I like this. I like the fact that they've known each other for a really long time. Daryl grew up to be that father figure that Barry unfortunately didn't get to have because his father was in prison for most of his childhood. In the present day, Patty Spivot arrives with Roscoe Hines at Daryl's office to tell him that Roscoe knows what happened to Barry, and Roscoe, who is going by Turbine, he tells everybody to call him Turbine, says something interesting. He says that he knows who Daryl really is, which is kind of a weird thing for him to bring up. It means that it's probably gonna mean something. At this moment, the gorilla pods fall from the sky and start hitting the buildings, and we cut back to where we last left off in the previous issue, which is the Flash having been knocked out by Captain Cold and the Rogues. The gorillas have arrived to attack Central City, and the Rogues are like, "Oh shit, we gotta wake up the Flash right now so that he can help us take out these gorillas." Weather Wizard prepares to zap him with his wand, but luckily Barry wakes up just in time, and he knows exactly who these are. He's like, it's Grodd and his gorillas. And Barry says that he's starting to hate gorillas, which is a bit of a rough thing for him to say, because not all gorillas are bad, Barry. You shouldn't be treating them the same. Those elders are really nice. They died for you. Barry fights back against the gorillas and expects the Rogues to help him because this is their city too, but they're like, "Nah, fuck you, Flash, we're leaving." So they run off, and they get surrounded by a bunch of gorillas, and Weather Wizard is more open to helping the Flash than the rest. So he's like, "Oh, enemy of my enemy, eh, Cold?" And so the Rogues are forced to fight against Grodd alongside the Flash. And Barry's actually struggling against Grodd's forces because it's been established that they have connection to the Speed Force, and so these gorillas can actually move faster, or as fast, as Barry. He gets overwhelmed, but he is saved by Golden Glider, who has mummy powers. She can shoot ribbons off of her body that's made out of her outfit. It's pretty cool. Cool ability. Not really explained why she got that ability specifically from the explosion that gave the Rogues their powers. With the other Rogues, it's explained that they got the powers of their weapons, but Lisa had no weapon on her when she got blasted. She just got really lucky. We cut to Grodd, who's just sitting on a throne that he's made out of rubble, and one of his generals comes over and says that the Rogues and Flash are being taken care of by Grodd's forces, and he asks Grodd if he's going to take part in the battle, and Grodd's like, "No, I don't have time to do that. I have something more important to be looking for." And that is when Axel Walker, the trickster, arrives, and he wants to help Grodd, because he's willing to just switch sides at any moment. Previously, he was working with Cold, and now he's flipped sides to Grodd. He extends his hand out to Grodd and is like, "I know the city like the back of my hand." And Grodd is like, "The back of your hand, huh?" And he rips Trickster's arm off. I saw this, I was like, oh my god, that is horrifying. I kind of feel bad for him. Like, it's hard to feel bad for the Trickster because he was going to turn against his own people and help the gorillas. But at the same time, he didn't really deserve this. He's still young. Meanwhile, Daniel West is on the phone with Iris West. He is her brother. He is on parole at the moment, and guerrillas are attacking the city, so he's like, come on, Iris, please, pick up. I just want to see if you're okay before I ditch town. But he's left with no choice but to run away from the guerrillas so that he doesn't die. The Flash and the Rogues continue to fight against the guerrillas. Flash is once again saved by Golden Glider, proving that she is the most useful character in this series so far because the guerrillas can't even touch her. Cold freezes a bunch of the guerrillas, and then Glider just wraps them all up in her ribbons, and that's it. They've managed to defeat them. And Barry tells the Rogues that they are going to need to stay behind and make sure that these guerrillas don't get away, and also handle these new guerrillas that are landing right now. They see more pods falling from the sky, while he goes and deals with Grodd. So he runs off to go and deal with Grodd. At the same time, he starts thinking about what Daryl told him, about the bigger picture, and how Grodd thinks that the Speed Force is for him. He thinks he's the chosen one, but it's not his birthright. Right? And as Barry says that, he sees Grodd, and Grodd seems to be infused with the power of the Speed Force. He's all crazy. He's got red lightning coming off of him. This is kind of the first time that Barry implies righteously that he is the chosen one. He almost refers to himself as that. I thought he was just going to straight up say that, where he's like, oh, it's not his birthright, it's mine. Evolution. Most rational thinkers have come to terms with this concept and accepted it as fact. History shows that over time, species change on a genetic level to adapt to the conditions of the world they inhabit. It's not a new concept. Darwin called it natural selection. Gregor Mendel had his principles of heredity. 21st century science calls it modern evolutionary synthesis. The common thread is that evolution is drawn out. It's a gradual process, except when it isn't. I know that sometimes it happens in a flash. Generations ago, a gorilla in East Africa was struck by lightning on the edge of a cliff. And in the present day, the Flash is being chased by Gorilla Grodd, who is powered by the Speed Force, and he is so fast that he is able to keep up with the Flash. Grodd picks up a taxi and throws it on top of Barry, but Barry vibrates his way through the taxi, and he tries to punch Grodd in the face, and he thinks that this is going to be enough to take him out, because he's punching him with everything he's got. But Grodd's face causes Barry's armor to smash to pieces on his arm, just his arm. So Grodd is a lot more hard-headed than Barry was expecting. Meanwhile, 20 minutes prior, Turbine saves Daryl from the gorilla pod that had smashed into his office, and he tells Patty and Daryl that he's gonna need them to take him to meet with someone, and then he will tell them the truth about Barry. He also tells them what the Speed Force is. He's like, oh yeah, there's this thing called the Speed Force, it powers the Flash. Meanwhile, Dr. Elias is being taken to the hospital in an ambulance, and Daniel West is still looking for his sister. He heads to her apartment, where he sees that she's been missing for months now, and obviously he doesn't know why. We know that she is stuck in the Speed Force. He doesn't. All he knows is that the city is being attacked by gorillas and his sister is missing, and he's gonna need to do something about it. Meanwhile, the gorillas are using one of the elders. They've put a helmet on them, and it is sending out a mind broadcast that makes Central City look like a giant crater, so that no one outside of Central City will try to help them, because they'll see this giant radioactive crater and they won't want to do anything about it. It's pretty smart way to explain why characters like Superman and Batman aren't gonna help. Also, this isn't Solivar. I previously thought this was Solivar. Usually Solivar is shown to be an elder, and I assumed that the surviving elder would have been him, but it's not. Meanwhile, the Rogues are continuing to fight against the gorillas, and they see a bunch of buses that are full of civilians. The gorillas are kidnapping civilians, and they will be using them as juice to fuel the elder so that he can keep the illusion up. Because since all the other elders are dead, he needs more sacrifices to help him use his powers because he's not strong enough to do it alone. The rogues don't want to become sacrifices, and they also don't want the city to be taken over by the gorillas because this is their city, and the only people messing with it will be them. Barry tries to wrap up Grodd in barbed wire to restrain him, but it doesn't do anything. Grodd just breaks out, and Barry's like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to stay as far away from him as I possibly can. And as soon as he says that, Grodd just catches up to him, grabs him, and smashes him into the ground. And we hear a massive crunch noise, which means maybe Barry's back is broken, or his arm is broken, or something. He broke something. As Roscoe and Patty arrive at Central Zoo, we learn that many years ago, that gorilla that was struck by lightning, that was the Speed Force. This gorilla was the first person or thing to ever get struck by the Speed Force. And he had the ability, using his mind, to project himself into the future because he saw everything that was going to happen. So he wanted to go to the future and be able to warn everyone. But unfortunately, he got sent to the wrong place and time. He arrived too soon. He arrived the day that Barry was on his safari excursion with his mum, because it turns out this gorilla is the same gorilla that Barry saw many years ago, the one that went crazy and attacked an antelope. I think it was the space and time jump messing with his mind. But it turns out that this isn't just any gorilla. This is Solivar. Patty and Roscoe have come to Central Zoo to meet with Solivar and get his help to stop Gorilla Grodd and save Barry Allen. This is such a great reveal. It was one that I was not expecting. At first, when they started showing this, I was like, oh, is it going to turn out to be Grodd was the gorilla that he saw all that time? I'm glad that what I said earlier ended up being right when I said that the gorilla that Barry saw when he was a child was not Grodd, because I thought that the book was going to retcon that or something, or reveal that. Meanwhile, in the Speed Force, Iris and the others are being attacked by a mammoth. They're running away from it, and she sees a tank and is like, let's go hide in there. And that's all that happens on that page. Grodd continues to beat the shit out of Barry. He smashes his mask to pieces. That is when Turbine, Patty, and Solivar arrive. And Patty's like, oh, we're too late. Solivar's like, no, Patty, we all still have our roles to play. Just remember what I told you. He's going to need you to be there for him. Why? Why would he? I still don't understand. Grodd grabs a metal pole and prepares to stab Barry with it. And as he brings the pole down, Solivar blocks it and the pole stabs straight into him. Patty is understandably in shock after seeing Barry and Solivar get stabbed by Grodd, so she thinks that they're both dead. She picks up a rock and is prepared to throw it at Grodd as if that's going to do anything to him, and Turbine stops her from doing it because that would be pretty dumb. And it turns out Grodd has lost the Speed Force, and his body is aging and he's starting to lose all of his strength. So he quickly hobbles away while Turbine just throws rocks and stuff at him, and Turbine tells Patty to go up to Barry and see if he's okay. She pulls Solivar off of Barry. Turns out Barry is fine. The pole barely grazed him. Unfortunately for Solivar, he's dead. That's right, we brought Solivar into this. We had that whole big reveal about how he was the gorilla that Barry saw when he was a child. And now he's dead. Like, that kind of sucks. Why did this have to be Solivar? This could have been literally just any gorilla. Him being Solivar, it just felt like Manipool was like, oh yeah, let's just make it a really important character to try and emulate some kind of emotion from this, or older readers who have grown up with these characters. I don't know, it felt like a cheap execution of a character. Meanwhile, the army are afraid to enter Central City because they think that it's a radioactive wasteland, so they all just pull out. Meanwhile, the rogues are still fighting against the gorillas and are trying to save all the civilians from being sacrificed, and Glider tells Mirror Master to get ready because they're going to start sending the civilians to the Mirror World, and Sam is just sitting there in his chair like, yeah, bring him to me, the Mirror World is ready for him. It is pretty cool that they use Cold's abilities to create reflections for Mirror Master to use. It makes sense. They've been doing that for a long time since, like, Jeff Johns comics, but I think it's fun. Like, I think really shows just how well the rogues' powers work together. Grodd heads back to Dr. Elias's lab. This is where it's revealed how he got the Speed Force. It's because he's been eating the Speed Force batteries that Dr. Elias created. And there's only one last battery left, and he needs it if he wants to take down the Flash. Meanwhile, Daniel is still running through the city away from the gorillas. The guys that he's running with all get captured by the gorillas, and he gets grabbed by one of them as well. He's like, "Sorry, I failed you, Iris." And he passes out. So it seems like Daniel might end up becoming a sacrifice if somebody doesn't do anything about it. Meanwhile, Daryl goes and visits Barry, who is once again comatose. This is the second time in the series that Barry has become comatose. The first time was after he got struck by lightning, and now it's happened again. Patty is there visiting him, and it's kind of a weird interaction with them because she does a childhood rhyme. Crisscross applesauce, spiders here, spiders there, spiders even in your hair, cool breeze, tight squeeze, now you've got the shiveries. Like, it's just a very weird thing to be saying to your partner. Like, why are you treating him like a kid? Daryl tries to speak to Barry while he's in his coma, and he says, "I hope you wake up soon so that you can fight alongside me to save Central City." And we see that while he is in the coma, Barry is using his speed thoughts to see into the future and see all sorts of outcomes on the fight against Grodd, and how every single outcome is bad. They fail every single time. There are many different endings, usually ending with Patty dying and Barry losing everything. And then he realizes the only way to stop Grodd is to give himself over to Grodd. He wakes up from his coma, he's like, "Patty, I have to turn myself over to Grodd." The art on these following pages are just incredible, of all of Barry's speed thoughts, transitions from these shattered lightning bolts showing these different timelines that turn into DC Comics proudly presents, and then it becomes The Flash in Guerrilla Warfare Part 3. It's just Manapul showcasing his incredible talent for art and especially paneling. One of the best panelers who has ever existed, one of the most creative panelists ever. 5 years prior, we get to finally see the date that Barry and Iris went on. They have mentioned it many times, now we finally see it, and they're getting along really well, and Barry thinks that this is a legitimate date, and it is to Iris. Iris legitimately likes Barry and wants to see him again. Unfortunately, she also used the excuse of helping her brother Daniel to enact this date. And that does not sit right with Barry, because he sees these papers and is like, "Oh, is this the whole reason you did this?" And Iris is like, "No, like, it's one of the reasons. I thought you would help me be able to help my brother, but I am enjoying this date and I do want to go on another date with you." And Barry just does not believe her and is like, "Nope, I see your true colors, I'm out of here, bye." That's it. And so that's the last time that Iris and Barry went on a date with one another. And we cut to the present, where Barry and Patty are together, and we see some more amazing art from Manapul, where the shadows of the blinds create the Flash, like the title Flash, on Barry's body. It's incredible. I just absolutely love these stylistic choices for these intro pages. And Barry explains to Patty that he needs to give himself over to Grodd because Grodd wants the Speed Force, and if Barry doesn't give it to him, he's seen all these timelines where Grodd will just destroy everything. So he thinks the best way to save Central City is to give himself over to Grodd. So he kisses Patty and tells her how much he loves her, and then he puts on his suit and he runs off to Dr. Elias's laboratory to meet with Grodd, where he gives himself over to Grodd. Meanwhile, the rogues work on saving the civilians that are being held hostage by the gorillas. So they start zapping the gorillas with lightning and shooting fire at them, and Glider then tells Mirror Master to activate his mirror portal. She grabs the buses with her ribbon tendril things, and she pulls the buses through into the mirror world, and Daniel West is in one of these buses, and he thinks that he's being kidnapped by the rogues. He doesn't understand that the rogues are trying to save everyone. He's like, I don't want to end up being a hostage of the rogues either. I think it's really funny that Daniel was just roped up in all of this, and this is gonna probably lead to something major happening to him. It feels like Manipul is setting something up. Daryl then arrives with the police force, and he's like, shoot at anything that's hairy. Also called, I don't have to keep you alive either. And Cold is like, hey, you're gonna threaten to shoot me? You know, the hero of Central City? We then see another flashback, the aftermath of Iris's date with Barry, where she went and visited her brother in prison, and her brother is pissed off because he's like, oh, you managed to get on a date with a policeman, and you screwed it up. He could have gotten me less time in prison, and now I'm screwed. I'm going to prison for 5 to 10 years. And what Daniel doesn't realize is that Barry was the Flash. The Flash took him down, so Barry is the worst person to look at his evidence, because he knows that Daniel broke the law, and he's just gonna send him to prison for the same amount of time anyway. I don't think he's gonna let his feelings for Iris get in the way of that. But yeah, Daniel's pissed. He calls Barry a wet blanket, and I'm assuming this is the last time he and Iris spoke to each other. And speaking of Iris, she is still in the tank in the Speed Force in the present day, and she asks the rest of the people that are with her if any of them can operate the tank. She's like, there's 4 of us. We should be able to figure out how to operate this tank. And they just assume that this guy named Albert will be able to operate the tank because he's Asian. At least that's what this guy does assume. Albert is like, why are you assuming that because I'm Asian? And this other guy is like, why are you bringing up race? And it's very clear that he chose Albert because of that. But Iris is like, let's stop arguing about this. It's stupid. And then Albert starts to feel really weird. And he's like, is anybody else feeling weird? And Albert starts glowing. And they're like, what the hell? Why is he glowing? And all of a sudden, the tank just shoots on its own. And they are sent flying. So it seems like Albert might have gained powers from the Speed Force that allow him to control technology. That's what I'm assuming. Barry is chained up by Grodd, and Grodd just gets all in his face and is like, yeah, you're giving up the Speed Force to me? You were wasting it. You had so much potential to use it to reshape the world. Well, now I'm going to use it to reshape the world, and because you don't have anything to say about it, I'm just gonna kill you. So he grabs a spear, he's like, you're pathetic, and he throws the spear at Barry, and as the spear comes towards him, Barry destroys the spear with his mind, and then the entire world begins to destabilize, and Grodd is like, whoa, what the hell is happening? And Barry pulls Grodd into the Speed Force, because it turns out that Barry, only a couple of months ago, he had only just learned how to use his speed mind. Now he's already able to use it to just transport people and himself to the Speed Force. He can just connect to the Speed Force and go there immediately. It's pretty dumb and very OP. He's like, you wanted the Speed Force? Well, I brought you to it. And Grodd is like, you're stupid. I can feel the power surging through me. And Barry's like, yeah, but I'm the king here. And your only way out of here is through me. And he starts rushing at Grodd. Grodd starts rushing back. But that is when suddenly the tank falls from the sky in front of them. Iris crawls out of it. Let's forget about everyone else that's in there. Iris crawls out of it. And Barry is like, Iris? I just imagine the other people who are in there and are like, hey, Flash, we're in here too. It's not just your ex. That woman that you dated that one time. Grodd asks Barry if he wants option A, which is for Grodd to take him down, or option B, for him to eat his friends first, and Barry elects for option C, which is neither of the above. And Grodd's like, oh, that was just a rhetorical question. I'm going to attack your friends and eat them first. And he lunges for them, but then Barry gets in the way and says that he's sticking with C, and Grodd punches his chest, breaking his armor, but Barry just rebuilds it, and he's like, you still don't get it, do you, Grodd? We're in the Speed Force. And this is a moment where I'm going to just take a quick moment to just talk about a quick nitpick that I have with this book and any other book that does this. I love the art in this book, but one little thing that bugs me is that Manipul will often draw a character talking, and yet their mouth will be drawn straight. Like, no, their mouth will not be drawn open. I don't know why it bugs me. It does. I didn't notice it until now, but now that I notice it, I can't not notice it. I just prefer it when artists, if a character is talking, the artist draws them with their mouth open at least a little bit so it looks like they're talking. I just can't stand it when a character is talking, but they're just like, And Manipul does draw them with their mouth open sometimes. He just doesn't do it all the time. He does it like 50-50. And I'm like, just do it where they're open all the time. I don't know. Is that too mean? It feels like fair criticism. I think that's fair criticism of the art. I already told you, in here, I am king. And Barry punches Grodd in the face, and he starts punching him in the chest, telling Grodd that he's delusional and that this fight is over, and his foot goes straight through Grodd, and Grodd's like, you were saying? Meanwhile, outside of Central City, the army still can't get inside, and inside Central City, the rogues and Daryl Fry and the police are all fighting to save the civilians who are being held hostage by Gorilla Grodd and his crew. And Turbine shows up and just fixes the whole situation immediately. He uses his wind powers to grab all of these radio tower looking things. These are what the Elder is using to channel his mind powers. He takes them away and sends them into the Mirror World, where he meets Mirror Master and Golden Glider, and that fixes everyone. The Elder is no longer being controlled, the civilians are no longer being controlled, the army is finally able to enter Central City now that they know that it's not a radioactive dump, and Patty shows up in order to save Daryl Fry, and then a tank shows up and just starts blasting. I'm just thinking, whoa, careful, like, there are civilians in here. You can't just come rolling in and blasting a tank like that. And all the army men have their guns, and the guerrillas just put up their hands and they're like, whoa, alright, we're done. Grodd has abandoned us, we don't even know where he is, so we might as well just get the hell out of here. Also, Solivar is revealed to be barely alive. He's not dead. They say that he's alive, and they take him away in bad condition. The pods just all fly away. And so now all that's left is for Barry to deal with Grodd. He continues to fight him, and then the Mammoth shows up again, and it has Speed Force powers, I guess, but it's got lightning coming out of its eyes. So Barry decides to save Iris while he lets Grodd deal with the Mammoth, and by that he means send the Mammoth just running straight into Grodd. And at the same time, when Barry grabs Iris, he's like, you deal with the Mammoth, I'm gonna grab this pretty lady right here. He's like flirting with Iris even though he has a girlfriend. Like, come on, Barry, what are you doing? You can't be doing that kind of shit. Barry helps Iris and the others escape from the Speed Force, and Iris is like, what about Grodd? Isn't he gonna be able to get out of here too? And Barry says that there are multiple entrances to the Speed Force, but he's the only one with the key, so Grodd is never gonna be able to escape. They make it out of the Speed Force. The tank lands in the crowd in Central City. Luckily, it doesn't land on anybody, or at least I don't think it does. Could have landed on some random guy. That would suck. Like, there's just a guy in the crowd who's like, did anybody see that? That tank just crushed Jerry and nobody gives a shit. Roscoe thinks he's reuniting with his family, but it turns out they are just mirror creations from Mirror Master, and he's like, hey, I can allow you to spend time with your family, just join the Rogues, and you'll be able to spend time with these mirror copies for as long as you want. So immediately they're trying to recruit him. And Cold commends Mirror Master on his work, and Mirror Master's like, shut up, I haven't forgotten what you did to me and the rest of the Rogues. You're not leading the Rogues, your sister is. Mirror Master sends all the civilians out of the Mirror World, and the Rogues decide that they are going to experiment with this Speed Force battery, because the guerrillas had the Speed Force batteries attached to these buses, and now the Rogues have them. A week later at Elias Laboratory in Central City, Dr. Elias is there, and he sees that all of his Speed Force batteries are broken, but then he reveals that there's more hidden in the ground, and he says that now things are gonna get serious. He's planning revenge against the Flash, I guess. We'll find out what Dr. Elias is up to. Meanwhile, Barry just returns to normal life. Everybody knows that Barry is alive, and so he has to just explain what happened. He's like, I don't really know what happened. I just forgot. I had amnesia, and now I'm back. And I guess he's gonna have to come up with some kind of story of what happened to Al, the guy that worked at the bar in Keystone City. You know, the guy that he went by when he was living in Keystone City. He's gonna have to come up with a story for him, like why he's gone. The bartender's gonna be like, what happened to my new worker? Oh, he died. Now, that doesn't really get addressed. It's not important. Not gonna be lingering on that. Barry leaves with Iris, and that's when Patty comes in, and Iris has to awkwardly just walk away and not get involved. Patty then asks if everything is okay, and Barry answers, I think so, Patty. I think so. And that is when we see this mysterious red energy. This is 1 month later. We see this mysterious red energy coming out of this endless black void. Move forward. He always says move forward. But it's time he learned. Sometimes you gotta go in reverse. And so we see this guy just come towards us, and he's got black and red energy all over his body. This is the Reverse Flash, and we will learn more about the Reverse Flash as the series goes on. Something I somehow completely missed while going through this is that Patty now knows that Barry is the Flash, and I think it's because of the way that they went about it, where she found out that he was the Flash during the moment that he was being attacked by Gorilla Grodd, but it didn't really feel like a moment of her finding out. There was no gasping moment of her being like, oh my god, Barry was the Flash this entire time, and there was no conversation between the two of them and how he was keeping his identity a secret from her this whole time. They just kind of breezed past it, so it was very easy to just go through this story and not even realize that something as big as that had happened. We find ourselves in the Diamond District of Keystone City, where there is a security guard just having a little snack in this jewelry store when an explosion just comes blasting through, killing this guy. We don't get to see who did this, but they smash a container, taking some jewelry, and then they run away. Poor guy. Just imagine having a snack and then you just die. Meanwhile, Barry Allen is just doing what he normally does as the Flash until he returns home to see Patty Spivot. This was the exact moment when I was like, oh yeah, Patty knows that Barry is the Flash now. How did I forget that? Oh, because they just did it so unceremoniously. He's not working at the CCPD though. He is still technically dead. They haven't reversed his death certificate yet, even though I thought they already did. Because in the previous issue, they were like, oh yeah, we'll just reverse your death certificate like right now, because you're alive and you have proof that you're alive. But I guess he has to wait for that to happen, so he is still a bartender in Keystone City. He doesn't need to go through the trouble of undoing all of that. He just goes to his job in Keystone City as Barry Allen now. And while he's working, he sees that Axel Walker, the trickster, is there. He lost his arm to Gorilla Grodd during the previous story arc, so now he's got a robot arm. And he talks about how he went on a job recently, and it was great, but he can't really go through on the details. But that is when a bunch of policemen come in and they want to arrest him for murder and robbery. And so they start taking Trickster away, and he's like, hey, I ain't done anything wrong. I don't murder people. And Barry believes him. He knows what the Trickster is like. He's not the kind of guy to just go around murdering people. The Trickster gets away from the cops and they start trying to shoot at him. Gomez and Albert, two of the people that were trapped in the Speed Force with Iris, show up because they have superpowers now. Remember, Albert was starting to get technology superpowers that allowed him to control the tank with his mind. Turns out Gomez has speed/strength powers. He's lost a lot of weight. They actually bring that up, that he's lost some weight. And now they're trying to be superheroes. Gomez calls himself Sprint. So they take down the Trickster together alongside the Flash. The Flash isn't very happy that they're acting like superheroes, especially because they're not very well experienced. A mishap causes Albert to go flying, so Barry has to get a whole bunch of desks and pile them up so that Albert has something to crash into. I don't know why this saves his life. These are all desks. Wouldn't he still die from this? Maybe he's got superhuman durability or something from the Speed Force. I'm not gonna lie, this whole reveal about these characters getting superpowers from the Speed Force, I find it incredibly dumb. I'm not really into this idea of just these random characters that I don't really care about having superpowers and stuff, especially because, spoiler alert, it's not going to last very long. They're only going to be in a couple more issues and then we'll never see them again. Barry gets everybody together, including Iris and the other woman who was in the Speed Force. Her name's Marissa. And he tells Gomez and Albert not to use their powers unless he says so. Iris and Marissa didn't get powers from the Speed Force. Don't know why, they just didn't. They just say like, oh yeah, we didn't get powers. And then we're suddenly introduced to another concept that hasn't really had any proper build-up. Apparently the Trickster is a part of an entire society called the Outlander Nation. So that's what those... Whenever we saw the Trickster and he had some guys with him, that's who they were. But we haven't really known their name until now, and it's just really weird that we got this... He's part of this whole nation, and there's no backstory to it or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, Trickster's a part of this society that are outsiders of this country. What a weird thing to just suddenly throw into this. They are demanding that the Trickster get released from prison, otherwise they will storm the prison and break him out themselves. Barry heads to the CCPD in order to meet with his co-workers, or his friends, because he's not working there, in order to help with the investigation on the Trickster, but Singh tells him to go away, because he doesn't work there. So Barry's like, alright, I'll get going then. And as he leaves, as he pretends to leave, Patty points at some files, which are the Trickster files, and Barry steals them. He just straight up steals the files. How is Singh not gonna notice that these really important files aren't on the desk anymore? Barry reads through the files where he comes to the conclusion that it was definitely not the Trickster who did this, because explosions aren't really his MO. He goes and visits the Trickster in prison and asks him to tell the outsiders to calm down, and the Trickster's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. If they want to break me out of prison, I'm just gonna let them. I don't care. And Barry's like, well, okay, if you're not gonna help me, then you're gonna be in a lot of trouble if they try and break you out, and so will they. The outsiders arrive, saying that this is the last chance to release Axel Walker. And Barry's like, oh, cool, they're here, I better go take care of them. And as he runs to go and take care of them, he smashes straight into the wall and realizes that his powers are missing. The reason why his powers are missing is that there was a book going on at this time called Dial H, where the main character in the book has the ability to turn a dial and they'll get powers from different superheroes. And in this issue, in the latest issue of Dial H, he got the Flash's powers. And when he takes the Flash's powers, the Flash loses his powers. So yeah, we already got other books messing up the story of this book. Albert and Marissa see on the news that the Outlanders are trying to break out the Trickster, so Albert's like, I should probably go and do something about it, because I have powers. I also don't know what Gomez is up to, he's gone missing. Marissa says that she wants to come too, and Albert's like, are you sure? You don't have powers. Marissa's like, I'm not gonna let you have all the fun, so they're gonna do that. Meanwhile, Barry is there while the Outlanders are trying to break out Trickster. He's stolen a bunch of the Rogue's weapons from the armory and plans on using it to stop the Outlanders. The Outlanders break into Trickster's room, and Trickster says that he doesn't want to leave without his stuff. So they decide to send some of the Outlanders to the bottom level to the armory to get his stuff. But when they go down there, they come face to face with Barry. They don't know it's Barry, but Barry is using the Rogue's weapons against them. He starts off using the Weather Wizard wand, where he creates a fog. It's not what he wanted to do, but it's all that the wand would do for him. And then he keeps tinkering with it. He causes rain, and eventually he creates a giant typhoon, which knocks out a whole bunch of guys. So the Outlanders send even more guys to deal with him. Meanwhile, Albert and Marissa hack into Marissa's dad's boat using Albert's powers, and he transforms it into like a rocket boat, and they shoot straight over to Iron Heights prison. When they get there, they see a whole bunch of dead guards, and Albert's like, oh, do you want to come in with me? And Marissa's like, no. And I'm like, why did you say that you want to come? And then immediately when you see that there's danger, you're like, no, go do it yourself. The second group of Outlanders arrive, and Barry just throws a Trickster bomb into the elevator, blowing it up, possibly killing these guys. He says it's a stun bomb, but that explosion looks a little bit more than that. Like, those guys are at least pretty damn injured. Having not heard back from his men, Costello, that's the name of this guy, says that they're just gonna have to leave Iron Heights now, and Trickster's like, no, not without my hand. And Albert is there, and he uses his powers to hack into the security system because he wants to stop the prisoners from being able to escape. Because Costello comes up with the idea of letting out all of the villains, because they will be able to help them take down the Flash and the guards if they arrive. When Albert hacks into the system, he accidentally opens up all of the doors, letting the prisoners out. The prisoners start chasing after Albert, but then Barry knocks them all out with electric boomerangs. And then he finds the Trickster and the rest of the Outlanders who have Albert hostage. Albert touches one of the Outlanders' guns, turning it into a giant cannon. And Barry's like, no, don't shoot that. It'll probably destroy this whole room. It's really dangerous. And then all of a sudden, there's an earthquake and a noise and a massive explosion happens. And everyone's like, oh, what the hell was that? That was similar to the explosion that went down at the jewelry store. And then they hear the noise again. And Barry's like, all right, you guys get back. I've got Captain Cold's gun here. Albert, can you use your powers on it? Albert uses his powers on Captain Cold's gun, transforms it into a giant cannon. Barry shoots the cannon, which freezes everyone in the room, including Albert, as well as the one responsible for these explosions, Marissa. It turns out that Marissa was the one behind this the entire time. She was the one that murdered the security guard. She did get powers from the Speed Force. It gave her these earthquake vibration abilities that would randomly cause explosions. She didn't have control over it, so she didn't mean to kill the security guard. She was trying to destroy Iron Heights and bury the Trickster so that no one would find out that she was behind this in the entire time. Also, at this moment, Barry, his powers return to him again. It's just really weird and half-assed to me that they were like, oh yeah, Marissa, this character that we barely even know, she did get powers from the Speed Force. She's also a bad person. She's going to prison. We might not see her again after this. Also, Albert decides that he doesn't want to be a superhero anymore because being a superhero is scary. And then he asks Barry about what's happened to Gomez. And Barry's like, I don't know. I guess if I see him, I'll try and get him to stop being a superhero too. So it turns out everyone who has entered the Speed Force did get superpowers, except for Iris. I wonder what that's about. Barry returns to the Watchtower because he wants to see why he lost his powers, and he says that Batman is investigating it, and that seems to not really be a problem anymore. And Cyborg's there, and he's like, is there a chance that you might lose your powers again? And Barry's like, because of the pattern, it's highly unlikely that I will lose my powers again. And then Cyborg decides to have a little bit of a conversation with Barry where he's like, are you okay? You look a little off. And Barry's like, well, after losing my powers, it just made me think again. I'm so used to using my powers to take down villains. I just wonder how Batman and Green Arrow do it. And at this moment, Victor tries to lighten up the mood by making a joke. He's like, so you're saying there's an upside to being a bulletproof robot 24/7? Did you just tell a joke, Vic? Maybe. As if Vic telling jokes is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Victor making jokes should be normal. He's a pretty chill guy. I guess this is New 52 Victor. Meanwhile, Albert is dead, dropped from a building, and we get to see his death in reverse as his murderer talks to himself. Much has been said about what your first kill is like, how you react, how you feel after, what the lasting effects are. I didn't throw up or cry, but I'll be honest, I didn't like it. Because believe it or not, I'm the good guy. This isn't easy for me. Sometimes you have to do a little wrong to make things right. Luckily with my abilities, if I need to, I can always put things in reverse. Everything is easier the second time around. And that is when we get yet another look at the Reverse Flash, who already killed Albert, but then he reversed time. Turns out he has time-reversing powers, and he is going to kill Albert again, and maybe he'll do it again and again until he has no problem doing it. Really messed up ending. Really unfortunate ending for Albert. This guy did not deserve this. That's why we're not going to be seeing him again. And a pretty depressing, dark moment to end the video on, but unfortunately that is where we're going to have to end it, because the next arc is the reverse arc, which is the final arc written by Francis Manapul. Overall, I enjoyed Guerrilla Warfare, but knowing that Manapul is leaving the book very soon, I don't think we're going to get a proper continuation of whatever he was planning with the Guerrillas. I'm not sure if the next writers that will eventually take over do anything with that. I don't think they do. I guess we'll have to see. But I am looking forward to seeing this new interpretation of the Reverse Flash. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. But you're gonna have to wait a bit longer, because next week I will not be doing The Flash. I will be doing that the week after. Next week I'm gonna be covering a different book. So you're gonna have to look forward to that as a special one-off episode. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and hit the hype button, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.